Hey everybody, isn't that fabulous? I love this thing. Anyway, this came from a friend's wedding. I just love it. Everybody got one. It's a rattle. How are you today? I'm trying to get organized. Anyway, a friend of mine asked me to talk about trying to be peaceful in a time of turmoil. And so I began thinking about that. And I don't know that I'm the one to ask today because I got angry with some neighbors who were being very selfish and self-centered. But as I said yesterday, not everybody's perfect. So ask yourself, what do I do when things around me are in turmoil and I begin to feel that turmoil inside? And what do I do to get centered? And the first thing that came to my mind is I always go into nature. There's something about sitting in the green, trying to get surrounded by green, by flowers, knowing that the earth is still turning, and that really gives me a lot of comfort. I look at the trees and I don't see one tree arguing with the next tree, saying, I have more leaves than you do. Where did you go to school? What kind of car did you drive? They just stand there. I'll try to remember to post a poem that I wrote about grace-filled trees. And so nature's where I go first. Another thing I use is what I call the Chicken Little buddy. Remember the story of Chicken Little, who's always going around saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Well, in psychology, we have a $5 psychobabble word for that Chicken Little syndrome. We call it catastrophic thinking. Everything is the worst. Everything's going to be horrible, horrible, horrible. And to come back and say, that may be true in some cases, like today. There were more deaths today in Los Angeles, and that's true. However, not everybody who gets this virus dies. And so to come back to reality and say what's happening is sad, or what's happening is turmoil or chaos around me, but that's not usually what takes place. And then there again, it goes back to what we talked about, having a choice, whether I'm going to join the catastrophic thinking or I'm going to put some distance between me and it. And that may be turning off the television. It may be stepping away from people who are enjoying that drama and chaos. It may be even giving up some friends that don't seem to match with your vibration today. Another thing is to avoid that victim mentality. With that Chicken Little buddy, give yourselves 3 minutes to state everything that you're angry about, scared about, you name it. And then say, okay, that's it. Now I'm going to focus on what's in front of me. I'm going to focus on what is good, find some gratitude. What can I do? We were talking about, excuse me, some of the homes where there may be domestic violence occurring right now. And there may be nothing you can do right this minute. Oh, I love this when we always say, there's nothing for me to do but pray. Maybe we ought to do that first. But so it's not like you can go and do your usual job of helping. And yet, there may be a way that you can offer help in the way of financial assistance. Call the domestic violence homes that are still open and see if there's something you can do or give, or if they've got enough food, if they've got enough advertisement, if there's any way that you can help in some social distancing sort of way. And then don't forget to pray. Do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Do for them what they cannot do for themselves. We ask you to intercede and ask for divine intervention in any of those cases, including just the negative people around you. Staying in the present. I've talked about that so often. Pull back into the present. That's a way to get out of that catastrophic thinking. Some people say, "Oh, I'm afraid to ever fly again." Well, not all planes have COVID on them, okay? Not all planes will crash. That catastrophic thinking is, it's an evil and corroding thread, man. It'll eat you alive. Come back into the present. That's why I'm looking at the trees outside. They're just standing still, planted, blowing with the wind, letting things go through them. Somewhere I read that the palm tree, when I lived on the Gulf Coast and I was so used to hurricanes coming, the trees were they would bend over almost to the very bottom. And that flexibility of just letting nature move through it, letting nature formulate how and what direction you go. I was used to hurricanes in the Gulf. And then when I went to Miami the first time and saw the trees that were bent permanently the way the wind had blown, they weren't standing there resisting, saying, "How dare you make me blow like you and I would," or maybe you wouldn't, but I would. So some of this is surrendering to the fact that you don't know the grand purpose. Don't know the grand purpose about anything. You think you do, but you don't. And one aspect too about living with turmoil around you is you don't have to do it alone. It's one of the first things that I learned very reluctantly. I always tried to do everything alone. I was very self-sufficient and it almost killed me. So the day I finally walked into a 12-step program for families, one of the very first things that I learned is that I don't have to be alone and that I can call and if you're at work, you can go into the bathroom and call a friend and know that you're not alone in the middle of chaos. It was very, I won't say uplifting, but it was really awe-inspiring for me to finally get to the point where I admitted I couldn't do everything. I couldn't leap tall buildings in a single bound and keep Saturn on its axis at the same time, which was my usual MO. And wondered why I was tired and grumpy. And so when I finally would reach out for somebody just to touch base, that load was lifted. And that's definitely one of the ways that I survive and regain that peace on the inside in the midst of turmoil and chaos around me. I guess it goes back to what I've written about in this story that's coming out, and it's the basis of my own book, is when that chaos and turmoil is blowing all around us, I feel so powerless. And the fact is, I can't change that. I can choose to not be a part of it, but I can't change it. So I reach out for the two powers that I know are always there. And one is this God of my understanding. And I get power that way, knowing that I don't have to play God, that something else is in control of all this. And then secondly, to reach out to what I call the God with skin on, and that's in relationships, one-on-one or in a big community. It's somebody that I hook on to that helps me remember that I don't have to play God and fix this whole world. thank heaven, what a relief. It's amazing. I ever thought I could. But, yeah, that's what we do when we're scared. Our control gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and